creative energy of the universe is in you, it's in me, and it's in all things. So we are the place where God shows up. We are the ones that bring God into form, living through us. Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live the life of grace and holiness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. One more time. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up.
Thank you, Tom Litch and our Mile High Band, for showing up for us today as that divine spirit, and welcome wherever you're watching us this morning to this virtual sanctuary called Mile High Church. We're so glad that you're with us. This is a great opportunity each week just to stop, pause, and ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I doing really? It's a great place to be accountable with ourselves, to say, have I spent as much time on taking care of myself and being with what is sacred to me as I have watching the news or spending time on social media, and ultimately to come together in that sacred responsibility that we all say yes to, of being a presence of wholeness, of oneness, and of unity for ourselves, for our loved ones, and for everyone around us.
This is one of those things that on your screen time report is a good thing to have, right?
It is,
that
yes,
we
Mile
showed
High
up.
Church time.
That's right. We showed up virtually together, used our screen time to uplift our lives. So we're so glad that you're here. We love that you're tuning in, and we want you to know that we are working very hard, making all sorts of plans for a time when we can all be back together in person again, which we hope will be soon, maybe in a month or so.
We're really hoping that it's a matter of weeks, not months.
Yes.
And even this week we'll be reaching out via email to hear what your thoughts are and to get your input on our return. But it really feels for sure that we're actually getting closer now, which is wonderful, isn't it, Michelle?
We are taking wonderful steps. So spiritual community happens in many ways, and for now, we're just so grateful to be together in this way. We are a community, if you're brand new, that welcomes all, that loves all, that includes all, yet deepens our walk in spirit every time we come together, whether it's for a service or a class or an event. That's what we're about. And we like to have a little fun on the way, too. Yes.
We do have a lot of fun, and we've got a fun service today. We're so grateful to have a power talk from our own Reverend Masando Hiraoka. As you can see, you filled the house, Reverend Masando. No, virtual. We've all showed up for you. We're so excited to hear from him. His first time giving a Sunday message here at Mile High, and I'm grateful to get to share with us too. And we have this incredible music as well, don't we?
We do. It's going to be a wonderful day. And for now, let's step into some prayer time together. As we do every time we come together in this Sunday service, we start out singing Surely the Presence, and we spend a little time praying together. Let's do that now.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
And while I feel the presence of God right here and right now in this very place, what I recognize is that song, those words call us into the remembrance that wherever we are, we can pause and feel and sense those words, that tune, shining itself through us, singing itself through us. So wherever we are right now as we watch this service, what I accept and affirm is that God is in the place that we are in, the infinite presence of the divine, the holy, holy, the love, the joy, the inspired openness that God is right where we are now. And I invite each one of us in this holy, holy moment to just breathe that in, to breathe in together and take in the remembrance that wherever we are, whatever's going on around us, we are in the space of the grace that God is, of the love that God is right here and right now. And as we breathe into this and recognize this, we can feel that this remembrance can actually go forth from us and can find itself moving into every corner of our lives, into every relationship, into every activity, into every condition. That we are, the all that we are, all that we are, all that we do, all that we have, all that we connect with. We are connected. We are a place where God lives, moves, and has its being. And as we feel this truth in this prayerful moment, it opens us up powerfully and magnificently. I stand in witness to this wholeness that abounds in this universe, that extends itself to and through all beings everywhere. And I accept for each one of us right now that this opening presence, this guiding presence, is here always and in all ways. And therefore, whatever conditions are in our lives right now, we can see with great wisdom and feel with great wisdom into them. We can feel as we move through the challenges that we might be facing, that the presence and the grace of God is right here, right now. We can feel as we step forward in new endeavors to dream bigger dreams and live bigger lives, that the presence of the grace that God is right here and right now. And we can feel as we move forward and feel the joyfulness of all sorts of opportunities for greater aliveness happening through us, that the grace of God is right here and right now. I'm so grateful to see this and affirm this and accept this about each one of us in this very moment. And in this fullness, this abundant fullness that is the truth of us, we then can extend ourselves into the world in a greater way. We can recognize together, not only as we pray together, the truth of our life and the truth of our soul and the truth of our good, but the good that flows through everything and everyone. And therefore, we send our blessings forth this day to every heart on this planet. We stand together in witnessing this prayerful truth, and we generously affirm it for all beings everywhere. We affirm it for those who are sick, for those who are well. We affirm it for those who are grieving and those who are celebrating. We affirm it today for all who are taking stands for what they believe in and for those who are quietly praying on their prayer mats this day. We take this stand for every faith tradition, for every world leader, for every other country. We take this stand for all because we believe in the oneness that God is as us right here, right now. And we continue to stand in that and witness that. And therefore, this day, this service takes us deeper and deeper into that truth. We accept it, we affirm it. We give thanks for all that is right here, right now, for this time of prayer, for this beautiful music, for the amazing messages that rise forth from Reverend Masando and Reverend Josh, from all the good that is right here, right now. We look around, we see it, we are it. And in great gratitude, I just let this be and let this go as I release this word into the law and let it be. And so it is. Amen.
We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy. We are holy, Spirit divine. We are holy. Come to me. We are holy, feeling love. We are holy, and healing me. Open my heart. We are holy. Allow me to see. We are holy. Beauty and love. We are holy. Lives in me. We are holy, holy, holy. Yes. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy. One more time. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy, holy, holy. We are holy. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, guys. So, today is Father's Day, and I'm very lucky. I was blessed with two daughters, Nicola and Tori. Hi, guys. And we're going to be doing a song that I wrote several years ago for them and for my father and for just the Father within. So any of you out there who are fathers, grandfathers, or have stepped in to play that role and to take that important role as a father, this is for you. Well, I've never been a father before. I'm just learning as I go to balance love and discipline. I never thought I'd know what to say or how to say it till a voice from deep inside told me, let love be your guide. Well, I can learn to be a father from my Father up above, the Father of the universe, that never-ending love. It's the love I give my children and the love they give to me. It's the truth that sets me free. 'Cause I know the love of my Father, and I'll show you the love of my Father. And I know if I only believe, I can give you all the love in me. 'Cause there's a the love I give away comes back to me. And when my children think about the love I give, I hope these are the words they say to me. Daddy, you're so good to me. You gave me wings, you set me free. You give me love and so much more. And as I go out on my own, I'll always know that you're back home. And with your love, I'm not alone. In the love of my Father in me.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you all for continuing to support this beloved community of Mile High Church. I walked into these doors when I was a teenager, and my dad and mom brought me here because they were looking for a place where they both of their religious identities could coexist. My mom was raised Christian, and my dad was raised Buddhist, and Mile High was a place where both of those identities could exist together. And it was amazing to see once we got here that not just Buddhism and Christianity, but all wisdom traditions and all faith traditions are so deeply honored here. And I was hooked from the beginning. I actually didn't go-to teen group. Once I started coming here, I was ready to come to church and get some spiritual food from the services themselves. And I can remember, coming on Sundays and getting really filled up and feeling inspired and just sort of like dabbling, for a while. But it wasn't until I hit my young adult years and I hit what felt like a spiritual dark night of the soul. I can remember this instance that really defined that moment when I was feeling just really bad about myself and about life. And I had drawn this caricature, like self-portrait of myself that just brought to light all of the features that I really didn't like about who I was. And I can remember like really vividly like writing the words on top of this caricature, like, am I worthy of love? Am I worthy of life? And I sort of, came to the next morning and I saw that picture. And it was this point where I just felt like, wow, like enough is enough. I have to do something about this. And it was on that day that I signed up for my first class here at Mile High Church. And it was through that class where all of the things that I had been dabbling in, all those things that I had just sort of gotten little tastes of by tuning in on Sundays, those began to actually take root once I got into class and I began to learn about spiritual principles. I began to understand that all of these qualities that we normally just assign to a divine thing outside of myself, these qualities of love and goodness and beauty and dignity, those were all really embodied here within me. And I can remember at first like having to fight for that. Like I had to fight to believe those things, that those could actually be embodied in me too. And it was this beautiful moment of healing through sort of that fight of saying, no, like there are these stories that I have created about myself and maybe I've inherited, but they're not the truest truth, right? So I can remember going through that healing and getting through those first classes and like feeling pretty good about myself and feel like, oh wow, I've done all this amazing, deep spiritual work. And then like, a few years later, there comes that little gremlin baby of that self-portrait character like rearing its head again, showing up in like a different situation, right? And I can remember being kind of like taken by that. Like I thought I had done this work already, right? Like I thought I had gone through this already. I thought I had healed this. And it felt like at first that I had like just gone in this circle. But then I realized and I continued to learn that that's not how the spiritual path works, right? It's not a circle, it's a spiral, right? And I was just kind of coming around back to this certain theme in the spiral, but I wasn't the same. And I had gained tools and I had learned some things so that I was actually deepening in this sort of core wound that I had experienced, but a deeper healing was happening. It wasn't the same as before. And it actually became a good sign that I was coming back around to that because it just meant that in my being and in my consciousness, I was ready for some deeper work again. So I've been thinking about this and how it relates to what's happening in the world, specifically around the healing of race and racism that is going on within our country and around the world as well. I've heard some folks say, like, I thought we had done this work already, right? Like, I thought we had healed this. Aren't we living in a post-racial society? And the fact is, right, when we look at the history of this sickness of racism in our country, we've been coming around on this spiral a few times. Like, let's be real. When our country became free in 1776, right, slavery was still legal. Now, many years later, it became illegal in the northern territories, but it wasn't until we went through an entire civil war, like one of the bloodiest, most devastating wars in our country's history, that slavery was actually abolished. But then even after that, it wasn't until 2 years later, on June 19th, 1865, where everyone that was formerly enslaved was actually free. And that's the Juneteenth holiday that we just celebrated a couple days ago, right? But then after that, what happened to these Jim Crow laws and segregation and this so-called separate but not equal, and the civil rights movements of the 50s and 60s led by Martin Luther King and inspired by Gandhi. They were fighting for the dignity that was showing up in our voting laws, right? And in this segregation that was happening all around our country. And now here we are again in this part of the spiral where we're taking a look at where we are collectively healing this sickness and burden of racism in a deeper way, except this time, right? It's not just in our laws, it's in our systems, it's in our institutions, it's in education, it's in healthcare, and maybe most deeply and powerfully what I'm seeing is it's also happening within ourselves, right? The way that racism has covertly made its way into each one of us. And I'm so proud to be part of a church where we're doing this healing work together. And I see people from all around in every circle of my life that is being brave enough to take a look at that healing and how that has shown up within themselves. Right? This pandemic has done an incredibly amazing thing. It has connected us all in this really powerful way. As isolated as it can feel, there's this collective consciousness that I really see is happening right now. And it's a healing that I believe that is here for a deeper transformation for all of us as we grieve together, as we take care of our neighbor by wearing a mask, as we just think about the whole. There is a deep transformation that is taking place. And so as I had to learn how to fight for the best in myself when I first took those classes, today we are learning how to collectively fight for the best of ourselves together. And we realize as we stand for Black lives right now, like we're standing for this deeper transformation within ourselves. It's spiritual work. It's healing work when we take that stand. I want to close with some words by Patrisse Cullors, who is one of the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement. And this is what she says when she talks about this work and taking part in this work. She says, "You see the light that comes inside of people to other communities that are like, I'm going to stand on the side of Black lives. You see people literally transforming. And that's a different type of work. And for me, that's spiritual work. It's a healing work, and human to human. If you take a moment to be with somebody, to understand the pains they're going through, you get to transform yourself." So we're all being transformed right now. Today is Pride. I know there's virtual Pride events happening all around the world, and I would ask us to remember that Pride also started in a protest. Pride also started in an enough is enough moment. Pride began from a place that said, my dignity shall stand, right? And it took people buying into a greater story, buying into the dignity of all human beings, and believing that above all else, and knowing that love is at the center of who we are. And so how do we make this love more visible? So that's what we're up to, y'all. We're just making love more visible right now. And so I thank each one of you that are a part of that healing that's happening. And I know that we are all part of this greater healing that's happening together.
One man come in the name of love, One man come and go. One man come here to justify. One man to overthrow. In the name of love. What more? In the name of love. In the name of love. What more? In the name of love. One man caught on a barbed wire fence. One man he resists. One man washed up on an empty beach. And one man betrayed with a kiss. In the name of love. One more. In the name of love. In the name of love. One more. In the name of love. Early morning, April 4th, shots rang out in the Memphis sky. Free at last, they took your life, but they could not take your pride. In the name of love, oh, oh, in the name of love, in the name of love, oh, oh, in the name of love. Oh, 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 in the name of love. What more? In the name of love. In the name of love. What more? In the name of love. What more? In the name of love.
Thank you, Tom Litch and our Mile High Band. Always good to hear a little Bono and you too at church. Thank you, Reverend Masando. Thank you to your beautiful wife, Rebecca, and especially a shout out to your parents, Steve and Cheryl, practitioners here at Mile High Church who brought you here. We're so glad that you're with us. So glad that you're with us today, and would like to begin by asking the question, if you believe that there is a divine idea for this thing called life. That if you believe, as our founder said, that there is a divine destiny for this thing called life. And for me, when I think about the intrinsic magnificence, be it in nature or in the brilliance of the human genome, or in the virtues we collectively share and rise in times of challenge, it's hard for me to give any answer but yes to that question. There is a divine idea for this thing called life. And I would say that not only is life a divine idea of God, but that God is the divine idea in all that is life. I love how it's said in the Psalms. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, how majestic is your name in all the earth. So another question for you today is, do you believe that there is a divine idea for every life? That there is a divine idea present for every life? Now, you may stop and look around and say, this person looks like they're embodying the divine idea better than someone else, or the divine idea may have been lost on that person. But I think it's always there. There's an old saying that I love, that you can count the seeds in an apple, but you can't count the apples in a seed. There is a divine potentiality in all of our lives, and you never know what circumstance may come about to help bring forth those apples, those divine fruits that help us all to grow. When I was 15 years old, I received my first ever invitation to share with a religious science congregation. I was called by the minister of the Escondido Church of Religious Science outside of San Diego, by the minister there at the time, Mr. Lloyd Barrett, who many of you know because he served later here at Mile High Church. And what a weird opportunity. I'd never thought about it. And someone who was a spiritual father to me, Alan Feldman, drove me the hour and a half there to Escondido, and I got up, and I hardly remember what I talked about, but it was over, and they were nice to me. And somehow, Lloyd, someone I didn't even know, nurtured this seed that would eventually grow to be, in some ways, the center of my professional life. You never know the seeds, the fruits in each of us that can be polished, that can be nurtured to grow and to deepen. So one more question for you. Do you believe that there is a divine idea for your life? Do you believe there is a divine idea for your life? I don't just mean as a whole, but a divine idea for your relationships. A divine idea for your work in the world. A divine idea for your self-care. A divine idea for your relationship with this divine power that we call life, that is wanting to work its way in, through, and as you in your experience. See, it's one thing to say there's a power for good greater than we are in the universe. But it's another thing to say that this power, this presence, it knows you. It believes in you. It knows every hair on your head or lack thereof. It knows every breath you breathe. It knows the inward nature, not only your divine secrets, but your divine plan. And when we open our hearts, it speaks to us like a holy father. You are my precious child. I love you. I believe in you. Let us walk together in this journey and always remember, I'm always here. This divine idea, which again for me isn't just God's divine idea for us, but God is these divine ideas in and as us. They're like building blocks for our lives. Each of us can build our lives with divine ideas. I love how our founder, Ernest Holmes, put it. He said, "We must know that the doorway of opportunity is never closed. Man is always receptive to the divine ideas. It is never too late for you to manifest opportunity. It is never withheld from you for a single moment. There is no sense of limited or restricted opportunity." I don't know about you, but I've spent way too much time in my life building my life with bad ideas. I've built relationships on the foundation of feeling not enough and on fears of abandonment. I've built works and semi-careers on the need to try to make myself indispensable, therefore burning myself out. I've built self-care on foundations of not feeling good enough and self-rejection. And I've built spirituality at times in my life and a God that I hoped was there but didn't think I was worthy enough to receive. For many of us, we can't build our life brand new with new ideas, but we can do a lot of remodeling. And so I want to talk about what it means this morning to build your life with divine ideas. And I have 4 to share with you today. The first divine idea to build your life with is deep meaning. Build your life with deeper meaning. Sometimes when we think of meaning, we think of it in a very existential way. What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of my life? What the hell is going on here? The kind of meaning I'm talking about is the simplest thing. It's about taking each moment of your life and allowing it to have significance, allowing it to have intentionality, allowing yourself and where you are, the places that you reside in, to have significance and purpose. Do you remember when you first got your own room? when it really belonged to you and it was for yours to do whatever you could do with. Mine was a half room because I shared it with my brother. But the intentionality, I could choose any poster that I wanted to put on the wall. What altar would I create with my He-Man action figures? And where would I put the bed? Would I put it in the center of the room? Would I put it up against the window? All of these were choices to me at the time of significant importance. And would the center of my room be a cheap television set that I could try and stay up Saturday Night Live and watch Saturday Night Live with? Or would it be a stereo, a record player, so that the room was filled with music? Luckily, my brother had the stereo and I had the TV set, although he was older than me, so I don't know how much music I got to listen to on the stereo, and I think he got to watch a lot of TV on my television set. But remember that sense of intentionality, and to build your life with divine ideas, try using the divine building block of deeper meaning. Look at the spaces that you reside in, be it at home or in your car or in your workplace, and how can I add more symbols of significance? Look around your home. Many of you are watching from home right now. And what is the purpose of each space in my household? You can declare it right now. This kitchen table is a space for sacred conversations. This porch is a space for sacred silence or sacred laughter. This bed, I declare, is a space for sacred rest. When we bring this intentionality, the meaning of life, God as the divine idea of deeper meaning reveals itself. A second divine building block to build your life with: unconditioned joy. Unconditioned joy. There's that joy that comes from pleasure of the senses. There's that pain that comes from sorrow, and it's almost like they're two sides of the same pole. So that joy on that side of the pole isn't the kind of joy that I'm talking about when I say unconditioned joy. The joy that I'm talking about is the joy of life itself. It's the joy of knowing you're alive. It's the joy, even in the midst of frustration of wondering what all this is for, that says, I am a miracle because life is. When we can learn to live from that unconditioned joy, we can say, this thing going on in my life, I'm not grateful for, but this whole of my life, I am so grateful for. I've had two great teachers of unconditioned joy in my life. They're my children, and we have pictures to share of them today and just want to honor them. There's Gavin and there's Nancy June, and they've been such incredible teachers to me of what unconditioned joy means. I think of my daughter Nancy, and one of the great lessons she's taught me is don't be afraid to say hello to people. We're so awkward about giving people space, and the reason we can't bring Nancy June back to a restaurant yet is she insists on greeting every table. There's something about living from that joy of life within, transcendent of conditions, that can create immense creativity in our lives. All we need to do to begin to allow this unconditioned joy is to go to one of those spaces that you've declared as sacred for yourself and give yourself a simple pleasure. A cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a good book. Take a little stroll in nature, and it reveals itself. There it is. There's that unconditioned joy. And I promise you, when you live from that unconditioned joy, it is one of the most creative, powerful things that you can do in your life. It can show up in so many ways. I love how a mentor of mine, a great religious science minister by the name of Linda McNamara, put it. She said, some people say we should live life as if it is our last day on earth. Maybe we should live as if it is our first day on earth. Conscious, awake, aware of the beauty and bounty around us, being childlike in our wonder. Or Betty Smith put it this way: look at everything always as though you were seeing it either for the first or last time. Thus is your time on earth filled with glory. A third divine building block I'm calling creative trust. What does it mean to live your life in creative trust? Any of us folk who consider ourselves spiritual at some point have to confront the idea that our life is a reflection of our relationship with God. That our life is a manifestation of what God and ourselves have done in co-creating our life together. And thus, as important as trust is in all of our relationships, and I would say it's the most creative element to building successful relationships, successful work, and successful living. But this trust must begin with our sense of the sacred. For many of us, our understanding of God begins as a stranger, someone else's knows that we're often afraid of, intimidated by. Then God may become an acquaintance, something we experience once in a while that we know might be out there watching us or thinking about us. Then we go steady with God. We see what it's like to live in a closeness with the divine. But we question it, is this thing for real? Is this really there? And then the time comes where we've got to put a ring on it, where we have to solidify our belief in God, and the harder part of that, God's belief in us. That divine idea implanted in our soul in a primordial time, ready to come alive, right here and right now. It's so powerful to say, God and I are one, but there's a certain power in the spirit of relationship to say that God and I are so close that you couldn't fit a sheet of paper between us. That the divine and I are so close that the beating of my heart and the breathing of my breath are a part of being and rhythm with its divine power. Can you feel that closeness with God? God so close with you that you can feel tickles coming up your spine, that you can feel bumps starting on your arms, that your hair starts to lift up in some way. To feel so close with this divine presence, to know that you can trust it as it believes in you, to co-create your life with these divine ideas. This doesn't mean test God. This doesn't mean tempt God. It means test yourself. Be willing, no matter how comfortable mediocrity may seem, to be committed to growth, committed to new understandings of love, to new understandings of what it means to live creatively, courageously, spontaneously. In honor of Father's Day today, I wanted to share part of a letter that was written by a gentleman named Bud Wilkinson, who is a longtime coach at Oklahoma University, Boomer Sooner, to his son Jay. Jay was an aspiring football player and always wanted to play for his dad, but things worked out where he was called to go to Duke University instead. And it was very challenging for him. And so Bud wrote many letters that you can find, but the most famous is this first one, and I'd like to share a portion of it today. When any person leaves a pleasant situation to enter the unknown, there was always the realization of how nice, good, and comfortable things were before. Yet only by facing the future and accepting new and progressively more difficult challenges are we able to grow, develop, and avoid stagnation. You have more total, all-around ability in all fields than anyone I have ever known. You will certainly be a great man and make a great contribution to the world. But to do this, you must take on new and progressively more difficult challenges. Always remember that I believe in you no matter what. You must do what seems right to you. Don't be swayed by what other people think. My grandmother, a great lady, one of the finest I've ever known, she always told me when I was a young boy growing up, dare to be a Daniel. Dare to stand alone. It is the best advice one can have for happy, successful living. And he closes by saying, I love you, Jay, more than anything in life. Don't worry about things. Live each day by doing your best. We'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Love always, Dad. And we can read those words as touching words from a father to his son. But we could also view those words from the father presences in our own life to ourselves. And that divine parent, that divine holy presence, which doesn't promise us what will occur in the future, but tells us we have everything we need within us to be all that we came here to be. Creative trust. The last divine building block to discuss with you today is tenacious love. Love tenaciously. Realize that when love isn't at the center of your life and telling the people that you care about and being there for them isn't the essential part of your day, that we've lost a step in terms of living in alignment with what we're really here for and what life is really all about. Another great lesson that Nancy June has taught me. My baby girl's, when she comes downstairs, her first concern is her stuffed animals. She goes around and picks one up, gives it pats, calls its name, and she's a better spiritual teacher than I am, because in that she's reminding me that, yes, for me, I might need a cup of coffee and some meditation first. But if my focus isn't loving the people that I love the most on a regular basis, I'm out of alignment with that divine fruit that wants to come forward in those relationships. So, question, and this could be a fun and imaginative one. Who is the most tenacious lover you have ever known or known of? Who's the most tenacious lover? Besides Mrs. Reeves, I think of a certain gentleman. We'll put up his picture here. Mahatma Gandhi. Now, doesn't he look like a tenacious lover to you? But when I think of someone who truly lives in the spirit of tenacious love, I think of this man who, as a young man, became an attorney and found himself thrown off a train because the color of his skin. And it so offended his soul. It so challenged his spirit that he began to recreate and rebuild his life with divine ideas. He began to read the teachings of Christians in the words of Jesus. He began to discover his own roots, which he had denied as a young man, his Hindu roots, his Indian teachings. He picked up a little book called Civil Disobedience by Henry David Thoreau, and he put all of this together to coin a term he called satyagraha, soul force, truth force, love force. And he argued that this love, this power, was more tenacious and powerful energy of change than anything that has ever been created. And that it was something that we should apply not only to the people that we care about, but the people that we might dislike, who discriminate against us, or bully us, or challenge us. He would share, "It is no nonviolence if we merely love those who love us. It is nonviolence only when we love those who hate us. I know how difficult it is to follow this grand law of love, but are not all great and good things difficult to do? Love of the hater is the most difficult of all, but even the grace of God, even this most difficult thing becomes easy to accomplish if we want to do it." Gandhi walked his talk, even writing a letter appealing to Adolf Hitler before the war really got bad in the late 1930s. Gandhi would teach us that anger is an important and powerful emotion. If you don't feel it and acknowledge it, it can act out in all sorts of ways. But expressed towards those we disagree with rage, it only tears down. It can never lift up. He taught us that fear is a valid and important emotion, nothing to be afraid of. That we have to honor and recognize when we feel afraid. But fear expressed is a kind of inaction that keeps us silent, complicit, repressed. It is not a creative building block, but love. When we accept it in ourselves, not just as soft and warm and flowery, but empowering and creative. When we apply that to our lives, it is the most creative building block that there is. Apply what it means to love strongly and boldly in the challenges before us in the world and in our country. Apply this love boldly for family members or people who were once close to you, who you may now be estranged from or in deep disagreement with. And most importantly, apply this tenacious love to yourself, to your own body, to your own heart, to your own beliefs. Love yourself onto the altar of the divine's love for you. Realize that the divine doesn't just represent the best of all of us, but that you represent the best of what the divine is and what it can become. So as we move into prayer today, I invite you to affirm and know with me that there is a divine idea for this thing called life. And that God is this divine idea in all of life. There is a divine idea for every living, sentient being. That every divine being is worthy of goodness, of love, of equity, of justice, of brilliance, and of genius. And join me as I know for myself, please know for yourself, that God has a divine idea for my life. And these ideas live in me as deep meaning, unconditioned joy, creative trust, and tenacious love. So committing myself to deeper meaning, joy, trust, and love in all that I do, I know that I carry with me the closest thing to a roadmap for living this thing called life. In integrity, in unity, in transparency, in vulnerability, in intimacy, and in growth. Thus, we say this prayer for healing, this prayer for unity, this prayer for consciousness, the courage to learn and to grow and to understand, to self-reflect, and to stay committed to that one power, that one life that draws us through silence and through speech, through stillness and through movement, blessing us along our way in this divine adventure. We let it be, we let it become, and so it is. Amen.
One man come in the name of love. One man come and go. One man come here to justify. One man to overthrow. In the name of love. What more? In the name of love. In the name of love. What more? In the name of love.
In the name of love, thank you, Tom. Thank you for being with us today. And as we move into this time of offering, what a wonderful opportunity not only to acknowledge the abundance and the richness and the well-being of our beloved Mile High Church, but to take a moment to honor the blessings inherent in our own lives, in our own family, in our own beings. Again, blessing all the fathers and all the father presences out there today. We are so well supported. And as we move into this time of offering, thank you for all that you do to financially support this Mile High Church. whether you do it by texting 45888 or you go online to the milehighchurch.org website, or you just mail in a check. And Michelle and I love receiving these notes of blessings and support and hearing how you're doing. It is so good to feel, even when we can't see you in person, this great collective that is this Mile High congregation and this Mile High consciousness helping to uplift everyone around us. So just invite you to take your gift, whether you're holding in your hand or it's something metaphorical, just bless it as we say our offering affirmation together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And so it is.
This song is for all of you who have seasonal allergies and maybe have more phlegm than you would like. But right now, I'm feeling good. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on a tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when the day is done, that's what I mean. And this old world is a cold world and a bold world.
Thank you, Tom and the band. Got me feeling good. Just want to remind everybody of what's happening next Sunday. Dr. Roger is going to be back in the house. So I want to remind you of that. And next Sunday as well, our new member class is happening right after service. So if you've kind of been dabbling and you want to take that next step of being part of this amazing spiritual community, check that out. Become a member. It will change your life, I guarantee. And this Wednesday, Dr. Raz is going to be in the house, so you don't want to miss that. So as we go forth from this time, what I know is that we build our life on these building blocks of joy and of meaning, finding the sacred in all that we do and ensuring that every part of our life is infused with that sacred divine idea, to allow those ideas to more deeply come embodied in who we are, so that love can be the greatest thing in our life, in our world. We let that be, and we let it be so, and so it is.